In a previous video, we showed how to save our Python work in these files called modules. In fact, we showed off this special file here that's on the screen called module.py. It contains 2 assignment statements, and it's a roughly serviceable module. But this is not actually how our modules look in practice. I want to look at a better example. So in fact, I have this thing called example.py. Now you'll notice it's very similar to module.py. It's got the 2 assignment statements, but there's so much more going on in this file. In particular, I want to talk about this part right here that says, I am a comment. What is a comment? A comment is something that Python ignores. Now, that might seem strange. Why would I put something in a Python file that Python is going to ignore? That's because it's not for Python. It's for you. It's for humans. Comments are like sticky notes. You put them in to help you remember what's going on with your code. I've got code on my laptop that I wrote in 1993. Code in languages I don't even remember anymore. The only way I could figure out what this code is doing is by reading the comments that I left myself. Okay, so how do comments work? Well, you notice that we have this sort of hashtag or pound symbol here. When Python sees it, it knows to ignore everything else on the rest of the line. However, when it comes to a new line, it's ready to start reading Python again. That's fine. What if I have a really long comment, however, something that spans multiple lines? Well, okay, I could do it by just putting hashtag after hashtag on each line, but there's another option that we have shown here. You notice up at the top, and I have started it with 3 quotes, and I have ended it with 3 quotes, and in between, everything that I've written is a comment. And Python ignores it, sort of. This is actually a special form of a comment. It's known as a doc string or a documentation string. The reason why, we call it that, and the reason why I say sort of, will become clear in a bit. So give me a second, but I want to talk about the rest of this file first. All right, so we have the 2 assignment statements. That's the same as module.py. And then we have this variable x by itself. Working in the Python shell, we've gotten used to doing things like typing assignment statements, and then let's say I want to look at the variable x, and I just type x by itself. That works in the Python shell. But inside of a module, if I type anything that's not a command, in this case, this is an expression, but not a command, Python's not going to do anything. Inside of a file, it only processes commands. So just like a comment, this is going to be effectively ignored. The only 2 lines that do anything at all in this file are the 2 assignment statements. Okay, so let's import this module. Let's go over to the terminal. We should always make sure that we are in the correct directory before we start up Python. We see the example.py. We're going to start up Python, and now I'm going to import example without the .py. It has imported it correctly, and now I can look at the value of the variable x. Great. There's one more thing that I want to show you about this particular module. Remember when we were talking about the module math, we could actually get help with a module? Well, I could do that with my own modules. I could get help with example. And notice, what you see here on the screen is exactly what I wrote in the doc string. This is why this is called the documentation string. It is a comment in the sense that there's no code that's being evaluated here, but when you write these specific comments, you are writing the contents of the help function. You are giving help to someone else who might use your module. And that's why these are incredibly important. So important, we're going to have our own video series on these types of comments. Okay, so that's a basic module. I just want to show one more thing about modules. Inside of modules, you can give any sort of command. So we could do things like print statements or assignment statements. We could also do import commands. It is true, inside of a module, you could import another module. So here I have this module called nested. And you'll notice that I want to access the function cosine inside of this module. To do that, I have to import math, and now I can safely access math.cosine. That's not the only module that I want. There's also this module called temp. Temp is used to convert between centigrade and Fahrenheit, and I have this function toCentigrade that I want to access. Temp is slightly different than math. Why is that? Because temp is not built into Python. You all don't actually have it right away. Temp is a module that I wrote, and in fact, if we look here over to the left, we see the module temp.py. You can import your own modules. Now, I'm not going to click on temp.py because you won't necessarily know what's in that file right now. But that's okay. You don't need to know to the contents of a module file to use it. I can do something like import temp, and if I wanted to know how to use temp, I just get help. And because I have written doc strings, I have all sorts of information. In particular, the help menu tells me what functions exist inside of this module and how it is that I'm supposed to use these functions. Exactly like reading the documentation for, say, the module math. However, there is one important thing here. Because temp is not built into Python, if I'm going to use it inside of this module called nested.py, nested.py and temp.py must be inside of the same folder. Otherwise, when I try to import nested.py, that's going to fail.